Salad with it. Dip those crispy golden French fries in it and dunk your breaded chicken strips. You can even cover your... Wait, no. You can't put ranch on steak. Or can you? Shots Crossroads. Don't forget the ranch.
Life is all about moments. Big moments. Small moments. And those moments you can't put into words. It's how we at First International Bank and Trust live first and have been for more than 110 years. One customer, one family, one moment at a time. First International Bank and Trust. Live first.
This broadcast presentation on the PSP Network is proudly brought to you by Shields, Premier Chiropractic, First International Bank and Trust, Shots Crossroads, Sport Clips, Tires Plus, First Western Bank and Trust, the Minot Hockey Boosters, Roger Ward Moving and Storage, Clean Tech, the UPS Store, Magic City Inspections, Planet Pizza, Minot's Finest Collision Center, Subway, Century Eyewear, Qdoba, North Country Sportswear, Morelli's Distributing, Jersey Mike Subs, Pro Style Production DJ Services, and the Beaupre Law Firm.
All alone, shorthanded. Here's a drive. He shoots and scores. Esslinger dinked it out of his shorts. The Samarzik, who's got a 3-point night going, sends it in front. Schulte top shelf. Oh, what a play! It's the Demons back with it again. Here's a drive. Top shelf. They scored. Now Swagstew's in. He'll turn and fire. Top shelf. Oh, Ben Swagstew right where Grandma keeps the cookies. Came up big back door. Another. Oh, my goodness. Down into the splits goes Trey Sortland. Somebody call the cops. That was highway robbery. Here's a slop shot. Ekblad from the line. He shoots and scores. Here with Lewis. But Lewis turns and fires. He scored. Lead pass. In comes Hamsbaugh. He's all alone. He shoots and scores. Puck's on in front. Here's a drive. One-timer. Deal shoots. He scores. Swagstew's into the zone. Oh, he's down. How about the hit of the week coming there? The right-handed shot beats Conklin. Sends it into the net. Van takes the 1-0 lead. Out in front. Morelli's got it. He'll turn and fire. He shoots and scores. Oh, boy. Mac Morelli with a twisted wrister.
One of the craziest seasons of all time in North Dakota high school hockey boils down to 3 nights to decide a state champion in the beautiful state of North Dakota. This is the 2022 North Dakota State High School Hockey Preview Show here on the PSP Network, presented by State Farm Insurance Agency in the Magic City, the State Farm Insurance Agency in the Magic City, Michael Braun, State Farm Insurance Agency, and our friends at Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm Nick Holberg, alongside of the man himself, Mr. Bob Gillen from North Dakota High School Hockey.com and from the Mesa Arena in the Magic City. First things first, as we dive into this preview show here tonight, where we'll give you everything you need to know about the State High School Hockey Tournament coming up at the Shields Arena over the next 3 days, starting tomorrow, Thursday, into Friday. A state champion will be crowned on Saturday. We'll give you the rundowns. We'll give you the state's top producers, the standings, how things played out in the regional tournaments, and then the matchups. And then Bob and I will make some picks here tonight. We'll bring you in on that starting here now, Bob. But first of all, for anyone that doesn't know, North Dakota High School Hockey.com and the state statistician, Bob Gillen, for 23 years. First of all, Bob, Thanks for doing what you do. In all your years, can you remember a time that we saw this many upsets, this many victories that ended in overtime, teeter-totter tilts? I mean, overall, you had to have been tickled pink with this season, weren't you?
Yeah, we talked about this at the PSP studios back, it seems like 2 weeks ago, but here we are. But, we figured the West was going to be like it was, Nick. I think when we talked, we said that any of the probably 9 teams, and again, no slight to Hayes and Beulah and Coach Fry's, building that program, and they're not quite where they want to be yet, but looks like they got numbers. But of the other 9 teams, I don't think there was a huge surprise. I wasn't surprised Mandan made it. I know the people out here are surprised, but Dickinson, Mandan finished 8-9 respectively, and if they would have made it, maybe a slight little surprise, just how their seasons finished up, but they wouldn't surprise me that they made it because they competed, with these top teams. And out east, we kind of knew it was going to be a 5-team race, and Cheyenne was kind of an X factor. They didn't start out maybe as well as they'd have liked, but they're sure playing good down the stretch here now. And some different teams that we're going to see here that maybe we didn't expect at the start of the year in November. It's
going to be a wild ride here at the State High School Hockey Tournament. Back to North Dakota High School Hockey for just a moment. 23 years as a state statistician and countless hours of implementing those stats each and every night. Throughout this year, North Dakota High School Hockey web views were good for you, I'd have to assume, with that many games across the board again. Are you getting burned out yet, Bob, is the next question for you.
Well, as I get older, it is. I used to be a night owl, but now when it starts to turn 11 to midnight, I just don't have that same energy that I did. I'm going to be 50 here in less than a month. So I think Father Time is catching up, but I still love doing it, and I know it's being utilized. And like I said, last year my webmaster said we had over 750,000 views in 4 months, just under 4 months. So
wow.
My goal is I'd love to hit over 1 million, but a lot of them are repeat people, but still they're using it daily or a couple times throughout a day. And but no, I enjoy doing it. I know it gets used. I know I get a lot. I really appreciate you with all your support and plugs and mentions on your broadcast, and it's a good partnership that I have with a lot of people like yourself and Ryan Cunningham and some of the other people that do play-by-play, and I know the news at the print media can utilize it. So as long as I can still stay up and do it, and the high school activities and the coaches allow me to do it, I'll continue to do it until at such time I feel that it's something I can't handle.
Well, I hope you continue to do it, because without NorthDakotaHighSchoolHockey.com, we would be lost with a capital L. Let's dive into some of those numbers from the NorthDakotaHighSchoolHockey.com website, courtesy of Bob Gillen, that joins us here on the preview show, again brought to you by State Farm Insurance Agency in the Magic City. Michael Braun, the State Farm Insurance Agency, and the Michael Braun State Farm Insurance Agency in the Magic City. I'm having a hard time with that tonight. I don't know what the hell the problem is there. We'll work on it. Buffalo Wild Wings brings you this one tonight. I don't have a problem with that one, of course, as I've been there plenty of times and was there over the WDA tournament weekend. Let's start here, Bob, with what we're going to see at the State High School Hockey Tournament coming up tomorrow starting at noon inside of North Dakota High School boys hockey. We'll touch on the girls here at the end as well here tonight. But let's start with the boys. Jamestown, the number 1 seed out west. Congratulations to Matt Stockert's group. First time since 1995. I was 10 years old the last time the Blue Jays won the regular season championship or region championship. They did that both in 95. They do it again here in 2022. They'll take on West Fargo Cheyenne. That's a 1-6 seed from the East region. Coming up tomorrow at noon. Number 2 in the East region, number 3 in the West region. That's Fargo Davies taking on Minot. Davies finishes number 1 in the East region regular season standings, 21-3 for a record for them. They take on the Magi that came in number 2 into the WDA tournament after sharing a piece of the crown of the regular season championship. They went 16-8 in the regular season. Those two teams played once this year. Overtime was needed. Davies won by a goal. That one will be 30 minutes after the noon game. What would you call that tomorrow? Probably around 1:45, 2 o'clock for a pregame show, you'd have to assume tomorrow. Face-off maybe around 2:15, 2:30. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, generally the games are about 2 hours, and then you have to factor in the 15-minute warm-up and then the flood. So I would say 2:15 to be safe, more likely 2:30.
Into the night session, we've got a solid start time for this one. 5:30 p.m. Shields Arena, number 1 out of the East, Fargo Shanley. Fargo South Shanley comes in. They took third in the East region this year. They went 18-5, and this is a good hockey team that won the region title just a couple nights ago, taking on Davies in the championship. They'll take on the Cinderella story of the tournament, number 4 of the West region. It's the Mandan Braves, coached by Leif Matson. They went 9-16 overall this year. They finished 9th in the West region. They had to play a play-in game even to get into the tournament. And then they get there, and they qualify for the state tournament for the first time since 2019. That game's at 5:30. Bismarck Legacy and Grand Forks Red River will finish things off in the nightcap in round number 1. 2 out of the West region is Legacy. They lost in the region championship to Jamestown by a score of 3-0. But, man, this is a hard-working hockey team that finished 13-11 overall on the year. They take on the Grand Forks Red River Rough Riders. I'm sure the Target bleach blonde hair dye has probably been taken off the shelves in Grand Forks. You're going to see those blonde mops at the Shields Arena as Red River comes in as the number 3 seed from the East region. They finished second in the East at 18-5 when it was all said and done on the year. Bob, when you look at the standings inside of the East region for North Dakota high school hockey, it was a close race at the top of the list again. Davies and Red River only separated by a point. 42 for Davies, 41 for Red River. We kind of watched that all year long. That was a pretty good battle between those top teams out east, it seemed, all year long, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And you know, I think we, you know, without any slight to Cheyenne, it was going to be a 5-team kind of race early on, you know, with North, the 2 Grand Forks schools, and then South Shanley and Davies. And you know, which one of those 4 teams are going to come out of it. And then all of a sudden Cheyenne has a great finish here and, you know, kind of snuck their way in and played some good hockey when they needed to. And now the 4-5 seed, that traditionally whoever wins that 4-5 matchup has the advantage to make the state tournament, even if they lose to the 1 and get cross-bracketed. And here both 4 or 5 are at home in the East. So definitely a very strong region. And, you know, I think the West has some shots in some of these games, but they're going to have to play their best hockey, and you know, we could see some of these East teams possibly meet again like they did in the East Region tournament here, and they were some really good games throughout the season in their matchups, and then also when they met at the East Region here this past week.
Got to ask you this. Red River and Fargo South Shanley both have 18-5 records on the year. 12-3 for Red River in EDC play. They had 2 overtime losses. South Shanley went 12-4 with 1 overtime win, 1 overtime loss. Are you satisfied with the way that the overtime points are structured across the board? It just seems like, to me, it's a pretty solid solution to make sure that those teams and points and seedings are taken care of. Do you have any issues with the way that that's set up right now?
As far as the format, no, but it makes my life answering a lot of questions because people aren't seen, like, I'll use Minot. They use their JV to play Hazen this year for 2 games. Well, it's not listed even on their games played under the Minot varsity. So people are like, well, how are they tied with Jamestown? Because Jamestown's played more games and they have more region wins. And, well, the JV games that they won, those 6 points aren't even showing that they played. You know, so it's hard to follow. And, you know, people are looking at the overtime win and loss and shootout loss, and they don't know that that's part of their wins. They think that's an extra win or extra loss. So until you kind of understand how to read them, it's difficult. But as far as using it as a formula, I think it really throws in a new wrinkle in how these teams are going to shake out instead of just, you know, a win and a loss and that's it. And I also think that for the lower teams, you know, and I'll use early on, Mandan Dickinson, you know, they came to Minot within a week, I think, and they both got the extra point. They got 2 out of 3 points, and they finished 8th and 9th in the conference, and that was the difference from Minot surpassing Jamestown.
It is certainly an interesting piece of this. You look at Central, they finished 4th inside the EDC. They had a 9-6 record. They had 1 overtime win there, 29 points for them. They tied with Fargo North, who went 9-7 inside of conference play. Fargo North was a team that was back on the map. They had the senior athlete of the year that unfortunately won't be at the state tournament. And Friddle was a pretty darn good player out east this year. That's the worst part about this time of the season is that certain guys that you want to see at the tournament just don't get in. And unfortunately, seasons come to a close and everybody can't make it. But, you know, touch on him just a little bit. Obviously, he was a special player for Fargo North, and they had a good year here this year and one of their better in the last 10 years.
Yeah, and I feel terrible for the whole team and Coach Klein. And they've the last 2 years they've had teams that should have been at the state tournament or could have been at the state tournament. And, I just, you feel bad. And I know that, people talk about having parity and, having the true top 8 teams in the state. Now we've had this discussion over and over, and other coaches, I know Coach Peluso has been adamant about this, but, should they be here? Yes. Their body of work, who they play, their record, their makeup of their team, they are probably one of the top 8 teams overall in the state of North Dakota. Unfortunately, the way it's set up through high school activities with the region format, one or two of the teams in the East have to stay home, unfortunately, and we're not going to get to see Mr. Friddle. And that's been one of the problems. You feel bad for Bottineau. They always had the Amsbaws and the Herbals and the top scoring person in the state, and they never got to come showcase. And then everyone said, well, they play all those West teams, and they aren't good enough to make the state tournament. They don't get to see that person's individual talent. So I'm glad that Jamestown made it. We get to see this year's state season scorer Nino, and he can come here and showcase himself and show what he can do and why he put up the points that he did. But yeah, it's unfortunate. But Friddle is a great player, and I know he'll probably go on to the next level and do well. And again, I just want to say kudos to Fargo North, and even though they're not here, they had a great season, and Coach Klein did a great job with those guys. And that's the unfortunate thing about the one and dones, just like March Madness in basketball. Sometimes the best team doesn't always win, and it's the one game shot, and sometimes some strange things happen that keep you home.
You open up a can of worms. We don't have time for it right now, but it's a conversation that I think needs to be had still across high school activities inside of North Dakota for high school hockey, and that is a solution would be a 2-tiered system, number one. Number two, you look at it and structure it maybe more like high school football that is going to see a change now this year in high school football in the North Dakota high school football playoffs in the top tier of football, where they're going to go off of a QRF system where the top teams are going to get in. Doesn't matter if you're out on the eastern edge or on the western edge, south, north, doesn't matter. The tops are going to get in, and that's an interesting point. Being from the West region, of course, and covering modern high hockey and being in that program forever, you'd like to see the top tier guys from the West region still be able to be at the state tournament, but it is a conversation and maybe one that we should have on Ice Time another time to dive into that a little bit more. Fargo Shadley finishes 6th. West Fargo finishes 7th. Grafton Park River finishes 8th. Devils Lake winless in the conference. They took 4 wins to the bank this year, however, all against West Region opponents. Kind of goes to talk on that same point for just a moment there. And then Mayville Portland doesn't play a schedule inside of EDC action, but they finished 12-7 overall on the year. On the west side of the state, Minot and Jamestown at the top of the list, 47 points for each of those teams. They split the region regular season title. Jamestown gets the tiebreaker, so they're the 1 seed. Legacy in their first year of program history comes out and is shocking people a good description of that. I mean, obviously they've got the former captain of University of North Dakota Fighting Sioux, Mario Lamoureux, who in my mind was a solid candidate for the Coach of the Year. Was that the biggest surprise maybe for you that Legacy finishes 3rd not only in the West region but 2nd in the West region tournament at the end of the year?
I think you probably hit the point there as there being first time as a school, first time as a program. But without really knowing, again, there was a few that came off of Bismarck High and Bismarck Century's rosters. We know how bad Century had a hit to graduation, so we knew they were going to be a little bit down from where they've been. And then not knowing where all the Bantam kids went. Did most of the Bantam, A's and that go to Legacy versus the other 2 schools? So without knowing all of those parameters, I mean, you can say, yeah, it's a new school, but we also don't know where the makeup of players and talent went within the Bismarck system. So, but you have to say that, for never being a team and just kind of getting all these players who have never played together. I mean, at least for Bismarck High and Century, the returners have played, a couple of years together and have been under those coaches and know what to expect. And Mario comes in with all that experience, but you've never played for him. You don't know what he's like as a coach and what systems he's going to have and what roles you're going to have with him. So, yeah, for them to do what they did is, you have to say, phenomenal and quite a surprise. I mean, not that they maybe made state, but that they finished 3rd and then took 2nd in the region tournament. So, yeah, I mean, definitely kudos to them, and it's going to be interesting to see how the Bismarck schools now kind of shake out the next 2-3 years as these players come through and Mario now has his program developed.
Well, it's certainly interesting, Bob, in the sense that Bismarck High goes 31 years straight where they make the tournament, and now back-to-back years where they don't get in. And Bismarck High finishes 4th in the West region when it's all said and done with an 8-9 record, 29 points for them. They were one of my picks to get into the big dance at the start of the year. They were plagued by injuries and some bugs across the board. Century doesn't make it either for the first time in how long? I can't remember a time that Century and High weren't at the state high school hockey tournament. Obviously 31 years in the time machine, that's quite a while. It will be interesting to see how the three teams in Bismarck continue to shake out. One of the big surprises for me was Williston at number 5 in the West region. They were my pick to win the WDA regular season and the tournament. They got bounced in 2 games at the WDA hockey tournament. No offense to anybody on the west side of the state. I mean, they had some top talent. Jackson Ekblad tied with Hunter Nelson as the senior athlete of the year out west. What happened to the Coyotes in your mind? Can you pinpoint that from an outsider's view looking in on Tyler Junt's crew out there?
I don't, and I didn't get to see a lot of their games live, and I guess, more so than Legacy, what they did as a first-year program, that was probably the biggest surprise out west. Not even that Mandan. I mean, I think this is even bigger than Mandan making the state tournament is, I had them number 2. I had Jamestown winning with them number 2, and I thought they'd be for sure, really in the hunt for a state tournament berth. And, they had that top-end talent, and they had, Hagano and Net, so they had some key pieces to build around. And I don't know if it was maybe some of the second and third line role players didn't maybe have the years that they were expecting to have, or if there was, some internal stuff. I don't know. But definitely, I know it's disappointing, and they're disappointed. But they have a great coaching staff, all-star coaching staff, and when you have Collins and Ekblad and Hogano to start your roster with, I'll take that anytime and
yeah, you bet.
Try to piece it together. So yeah, definitely, it's unfortunate, and again, another team had been fun to have, some of those key players to play against these Eastern teams and showcase themselves. But again, only 4 can go, and I'm sure we can go down every roster and say we'd love to see this team here for these players and all that too. But that's probably my biggest surprise was Williston, where they finished, and then not making the state tournament or even get bounced out 2 in a row at the WDA.
The biggest surprise of the WDA tournament was round 1, and that's where you see number 7 Botno take down number 2 Minot, a Botno team that has some potential to be good. They're going to graduate some key pieces, though, and some guys that were certainly mentionable athletes that could have been all-region selections there in Olsen and Siemens. Those guys had a good year up at the Lumberdome. And by the way, for the first time, and I don't know how long, we saw a dead rabbit on the ice in West Region high school hockey play when I was traveling with the Magi. Thank you to the Botno student section for having some fire in the belly still. Dickinson finishes 8, Mandan finishes 9. Leif Manson's crew comes to the state tournament. They are now the official Cinderella story. Hazen-Beulah at 0-13. Any more on those teams, Bob, or the West Region? Any other notes that you have before we dive into the top players in the state of North Dakota? We'll go through that rundown. I
think the only interesting point is, when you look at the Botno upset of Minot, and then they say, okay, if they don't win the semifinal game, they come back and they're going to get, Mandan or Williston. And then when Mandan won, you look and say, okay, well, they were 2-0 against Mandan in the game to go to state. Same thing happened to Central. They lose the semifinal. The Davies come back, and now they get West Fargo Packers or the Cheyenne Mustangs, and they were, 10 goals for, 1 against Cheyenne during the season. And guess what happens? Both those teams who were 2-0 against their opponent to go to state both lost in the state qualifiers, or teams they had previously beaten twice in the regular season matchup. So I thought that was kind of interesting that, here the teams that had good matchups to go to state both get eliminated for games where they've previously beaten those teams and beat them quite handily.
Don't you love this season? I mean, I don't know if there was a single person that lived outside of Grand Forks that wasn't rooting for Fargo North, by the way, when the Spartans had Red River on the ropes. That would have been the first time ever that Red River and Central weren't at the state high school hockey tournament. Red River still gets in, but my goodness, Central had a good team again this year. I'm sure they'll be back on the map next year. It seems that that's always the case. If you're a betting man, would you say they're here next year? Would you go on record and say that?
They're again, who's going to leave early? Who's going to go to juniors? So, and then again, Red River has a little more depth. So what happens in Grand Forks is kind of a 2-year cycle. As you start seeing the Bantam AA's and A's will go to the school that's got a few more openings where they can jump on varsity quicker. So that might be where some of the younger talent now might go Central's route, because Red River's got a little deeper roster and some returners. And then after a couple years, Central will be back, and then Red River is going to kind of rebuild, and then those kids will go to Red River. So it's kind of a 2-year cycle. So right now, Red River is kind of a little bit ahead of Central as far as depth and talent. But Grant Paranika won't be away from the state tournament for long. I can tell you that. So they'll just kind of rebuild and be back, and we'll see the Grand Forks like we always do in the mix.
And they will absolutely reload, I'd have to assume. All right, let's look at the state's top performers. These numbers brought to you by North Dakota High School Hockey.com. Nolan Niedow from Jamestown comes into the state tournament leading the state, 62 points for him, 31 goals, 31 assists. This is a well-rounded player that had 8 points in the WDA hockey tournament alone. Keep an eye on him tomorrow and throughout this entire weekend here in Fargo. Branson from North ends up with 46 points. He's not at the tournament. Neither is Ashton Collings from Williston, who ended up with 46. Fargo South Shadley's Zach Bourne's the next player on this list that we see at the big dance. 45 points for him. Hunter Nelson, the West Region Senior Athlete of the Year, 44 points for him. Finishes in the top 5. A pair of Botno Rugby Braves finished 6 and 7. That's Getzloff and Siemens, 43 points respectively for each of those players. Baron Stibbe from Fargo Davies, who Minot will play tomorrow. Stibbe with 41 points on the season. North had a pair of players in Richards and Friddle with 41 and 40. Friddle had 41, and that rounds out the top 10. Players that are in the state tournament that we'll see that are inside the top 25. Cam Bollinger, Fargo Davies, 39 points for him. Sproul and Coleman from Red River. Sproul's got 37, 36 for Coleman. Minot's Jaden Luck comes into the tournament, number 14 in the state. He had a 3-point tournament, including 2 goals at the WDA Hockey Showdown in the VFW Sports Center in Bismarck, 34 points for Luck. Ekblad not on this list, or on this list, but not at the tournament. Neither is Gershevsky from Grand Forks Central, 34 points for each of those players. Zach Moser from West Fargo Cheyenne's in attendance, 33 points for him. Matt Olson finished number 18 in the state with 32 points from Botno Rugby. Klaus from West Fargo Cheyenne's here at the tournament, 32 points for him coming in. Central's Litzinger not here. Brooks Rolson from Jamestown, good role player for the Blue Jays. And anytime a role player's got 31 points on the year, you know things are going well there. Walker Mcgillis from Mayville Portland ended up with 31 points. The freshman, Mac Morelli from Minot High, the youngest player on this list, and doing some pretty good things for the Magi. Morelli's got 31 points coming into the tournament. Hunter Anker from Bismarck got banged up at the end of the year. He ended up with 29 points. And the only other one in the top 25 that we'll see here at the tournament is Marcus Butts from Bismarck Legacy with 29 points. The scoring chase, is it fair to say that across the board, some of the top-end talent of the years past compared to some of the top-end talent from our time now, that the pace is still pretty good in North Dakota high school hockey, wouldn't you say, as far as talent-wise is concerned?
Yeah, it's tough. When you look at last year we had that Central line that was up in the 60s, and we had years where we had points up in the 80s, and it's just, I think there's more parity, and we can see that in the West Region top to bottom, and we don't see the runaway scores like we did maybe 5 years ago, and so it's. People look and say, well, high school hockey's down, and we don't have those high point getters and goal scorers and everything. But I just look at and we'll talk about the teams here in a little bit. But some of the goaltending performances that we saw from sophomores and freshmen. And,
wow.
Then just the Fargo North goaltender that had 60 saves or 57 saves against Red River in the double overtime game. I mean, that takes away some of those points right there. When you can't do anything about a goaltender that's playing well and making great saves, and in some cases standing on their head and robbing you. So I don't get too caught up in the points and judging seasons by that. But we have a good group of players here in North Dakota, both on the boys and girls side, that have had good seasons and put up some pretty good numbers. When you look at the last 5 to 10 years, kind of comparing individual seasons. But it'll be fun, and then we have a good crew of these that'll be on the ice starting tomorrow, and it'll be fun to watch them compete against each other throughout the weekend.
How will they do? And where are the big players, and how big will they be? That will be a factor in who takes home the state championship coming up on Saturday evening at the Shields Arena here at Fargo. This is the North Dakota State Boys Hockey Tournament preview show on the PSP Network, brought to you by our friends at Buffalo Wild Wings and Michael Braun, State Farm Insurance Agency in the Magic City. Told you I'd get it right. Third time's the charm. Every time, hat trick for me, you got it. We'll come back and we're going to break down these matchups on day number 1 at the State High School Hockey Tournament. It is the preview show here on the PSP Network.
bar food with sandwiches, tenders, and there's more where this came from. To the greatest of all times, Buffalo Wild Wings.
For your surprisingly great rates, contact your local State Farm agent today.
If you want the real deal, talk to State Farm agent Michael Lee Braun in Minot today.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Well, I don't think it's any big secret that after seeing that last Buffalo Wild Wings commercial, I know where I'm going after this. Bob, you're invited. If not, I know it's been a long week for everybody, of course. And if you watched the WDA tournament preview show, you saw a full production. This has been a busy week for us at the PSP Network, so you get audio only tonight. That's because we had region basketball taking place in Minot, and of course, high school basketball regular season wrapping up last night. The Magi from Minot took a West Region regular season championship home. Congratulations to Dean Winchesky and his crew from Minot High. It's Nick Holberg and Bob Gillen. Bob Gillen from North Dakota High School Hockey.com. Yours truly, Nick Holberg from the PSP Network, as we break down the matchups at the state tournament for boys hockey starting tomorrow. Jamestown takes on Cheyenne. That's a 1-4 matchup. Jamestown, the 1 seed out west. Cheyenne, number 4 out east. That's at noon, roughly around 2 o'clock. Call it there. You might want to show up around 2 for the next game. That's 2 in the east. Davies takes on 3 of the west, Minot. And then in the night session, number 1 out of the east, Fargo South Shanley takes on number 4 out of the west, the Cinderella Story Mandad. And then to finish off round number 1, number 2 seed from the west, Bismarck Legacy, takes on the number 3 seed from the east, Grand Forks Red River. Let's hop into it. Matchup number 1, Matt Stockert in his 18th year with the Jamestown Blue Jays takes on David Benson, his 5th year with the West Fargo Cheyenne Mustangs. It's the Blue Jays and Mustangs in the first game of the tournament. Bob, your thoughts on this one here? This could be a matchup that finds Jamestown moving on to the semifinals, but it certainly won't be a cakewalk. I know these teams played earlier on in the season.
Yeah, and you know that was kind of it was an 8-1 score. But in talking to Coach Stockton, I remember doing the score sheet, they had some of their key players that were not dressed. Not taking away from Cheyenne, but I think we're going to see a different Jamestown team, and both teams are playing different hockey than they were when they played. But you know, both teams are coming in. You know, Jamestown right now in the month of February had played 8 games, and they had 4 shutouts in those 8 games, and they had 39 goals for and 7 against.
Wow!
In the month, and you know, they're coming in with 8 in a row, and you know, they've had 1 loss since December 21st, and that was that 2-3 loss to Fargo North, who's no slouch. So you know, they're playing really good, and they've had 117 goals for, 38 against. And they're 2-2 against the East right now, and they're games with West Fargo Cheyenne, Devils Lake, Fargo North, and the West Fargo Packers. They went 2-2 in those games, and so I think they've got some games with the East, and they obviously have film with Cheyenne, as Cheyenne does with Jamestown. So they're going to be familiar with each other, and we'll see what happens with that. And then on Cheyenne's side, you know, they're 4-2 in the month of February, and scored 26 goals and 18 against in that month, and you know, their losses were to you know, Red River and Davies and South Shanley, but all those games were, you know, they had one probably lopsided game, and then they had one very close game against those top 3 in the East. But they're playing good right now, and I think the one thing for them is they've only scored 78 goals on the year, you know, where Jamestown's in triple digits, but they're the second most penalized team of the 8 teams that are here. Them and Legacy are the top 2 right now, so I think for them, it's stay out of the box, because Jamestown lit it up, and you were there for the WDA on their power play. So I think that, to me, that's the biggest thing, is if Cheyenne's in the penalty box, and they're the second most penalized team of the 8 here, and the way that Jamestown was scoring goals in the power play, that to me is going to be the special teams is the factor. Jamestown will win that game because of their power play.
Well, let's dive into the numbers of some of these players too a little bit deeper here, Bob, and let's start with the Mustangs. Coming out of the East region, 33 points for Zach Moser. Klaus has 32, 26 for Teckenberg. Some pretty good numbers across the board from their top 3, 18, 11, 11, 10, 10, 9. I mean, other guys can put it in as well. Goaltending in Buchholz with an 89% save percentage and a .349 goals against average. For the Blue Jays, they've got the categories and a check mark next to the wins in most of the categories in this showdown here today. Obviously different conferences, but you've got the state's leading scorer, Nolan Nina, with 62 points, Nelson with 44, 31 for Roldson. So the top three kind of in the same boat, if you will. The depth of Jamestown is there as well, though, because they've got McLaughlin on the defensive end with 22, 18 for Cummings, Zalewski's 15, 12, 12, 11. The X factor besides the power plays, and the power plays is without a doubt the top conversation for the Blue Jays all the way through that tournament. They had 8 power play goals at the WDA hockey tournament, and it wasn't any garbage stuff. I mean, it was highlight reel stuff where they just used and abused their opponents like a rented mule, man. The power plays are going to be huge, but Jamestown also has an X factor in goal in Brody Hillstrom. The best numbers in the West region with a 1.69 goals against average and a 9.29 save percentage. And wait till you see this kid if you haven't seen him yet. He's got to be 6'5" and in goal pads at least. I mean, he's a monster in there. Goaltending will be a factor, and is it safe to say that the Blue Jays have one of the best we've seen in a while come out of the West region?
Yeah, and I just looking up, and Brody did play in the game against Cheyenne, and he had 41 saves on 49 shots. But again, they didn't have their full lineup according to Coach Stockard. But so he did play in that game, and they did get to him. But the second half of the season, he's been solid. And I know in talking with Coach Stockard, he said that's been the biggest thing for them is. They were always getting shots early in the season. I was actually at the game when Century was in Jamestown and they went to overtime, ended up winning, against Century, but they outshot them like 3-1. Just couldn't score. And now they're still getting shots, but now they're burying their chances. But now Hillstrom is, getting them if they have a turnover or 2-on-1 or odd man situation, he's making those saves maybe he didn't make early in the season. And but yeah, he's solid. And I think for Jamestown, they did exactly what we thought they'd do at the start of the year, not making the tournament last year when they finished so well in the West region to get bounced out, not make state. They came in, they were on a mission, they got the job done, and was it 14-1 you said in the WDA? I don't think they're coming in nervous, and I think after losing to Cheyenne as bad as they did, I think they want this matchup. It's not Central, it's not Davies, it's a team that they want to get back at. And so I think you're going to see a very confident Blue Jay team tomorrow. And after what their football team did, we talked about that in the previous show. I mean, that town right now is just buzzing because of how well this group of athletes and all their sports are doing. And Jamestown is kind of back on the map now with high school athletics. They've
got the Coach of the Year, Matt Stockard, as well. One of the best in the business across the state. He's going to have them ready to go tomorrow. That will be a fun matchup to see. So will the next one. And that's Fargo Davies taking on Minot. Minot finishes number 3, Davies number 2. This is a showdown that we saw earlier this year. Matt Morelli and I actually had the call of this one at the Shields Arena in the Farmers Union side of that ice surface, or inside of that venue on the Farmers Union ice surface. 3-2 in overtime. Bob, what do you like about this matchup for both of these teams? Does Minot have a chance here to punch their ticket? Obviously, we know Davies is a power. They're on their home ice, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, I think for this matchup, it helps Minot because, again, they have to travel tonight, and then you have the nerves. Davies is playing at home, but you're playing a team you played, and you played them well. You played them here well. Back in the season, they lost in overtime, but it was here in Fargo when they had to drive on the bus that day too, without a night's rest. So I don't think they're as nervous now when you look at Davies' record. Oh, we got a team that's 21-3, and it's Fargo Davies, and they've beaten this team, beaten that team, and I think Minot has film on them. They've played them. They know what to expect. They know who the key players are. They know what they're going to do. They know Wimpkin's the solid goalie and what they have to do to get pucks by them, and they can watch the film. And I think Minot, the best thing that happened to them was when they went to their Roseau tournament and got beat up a little bit by good teams. Matamidi is a state tournament team in Roseau, and ever since they got back from that trip, I mean they've been I think they're 11-3 since they got back, and their 3 losses are to Davies, Jamestown, and then the trip up against Bottom Rugby. So, I think after playing those high-level teams and that high-caliber type of competition, really opened up some eyes for the younger guys, and then gave them that, hey, this is what these region teams are like. And they've been really well after that, that trip out to Roseau in the Christmas break time.
It's going to be a fun one. This is a Davies team that is 9-1 in their last 10, and diving further into those numbers, Bob, Baron Stibbe, one of the state's top producers, 41 points for him. He leads the charge for the Eagles. Bollinger's got 39, 27 for Rarick, 21 for Freer, 18 for Archbold. Kenkel Fritz has 18, 15 for Demers, and that's some depth when you look at the amount of players that have points above 15 and outscoring their opponents on the year, 104-34, as mentioned, with a goaltender in Wimkin that has a 137 goals against average and a 93%. You thought Hillstrom's numbers were good; those are better. And it's a Davies team that is going to look to see if they can win a state championship on their home ice surface. But you look at Minot and what Minot brings to the table. This is a group of young men that is by no means a slouch inside of high school hockey, and one of the favorites out west. I had them picked to finish second in that WDA tournament, secretly probably number one. That one could have went either way in my mind. They had the hiccup there, and maybe that hiccup against Botno is the same kind of a hiccup that they had against those Minnesota teams. If you see it and find it, the guys that are going to have to come up big, Jaden Luck's one of them. 34 points for him. He's a senior, leads the charge for the Magi. 31 for Morelli. How about Jackson Bradley on the blue line? 26 points for him on the back end. 26 as well for Zach Deal, one of the senior captains. He had a good West Region tournament. 25 for Brock Jones. 22 for Swank. Stu Esslinger's got 20 on the year. Noah Conklin is the X factor to me here, not to put too much pressure on anybody, but a 2.4 goals against average and an 8.92 save percentage. Not bad numbers. Noah's going to have to wear a Superman cape at this tournament if they want to go anywhere in this one. Besides goaltending in this one, is special teams. Again, the X factor here, or maybe just an early start. If Minot can hang in after one period of play, they have a shot at it, but they can't be down any at the end of one would be my thought on this.
Well, I mean, when they played earlier, it was a 3-2 game, so it's 2-2 going into overtime, and that's what they're going to mean. I looked up Davies, they're 21-3, and their 3 losses were to Red River, Moorhead, and then South Shanley just in the region championship. And but of their 24 games this year, Nick, 15 they've given up 1 goal or they've had a shutout in 15 of their 24 games. So they don't give up a lot of goals. So if they come out and get 1 or 2 goals right away in the first period, that's going to mentally, I think, get into Minot a little bit, saying, hey, these guys don't, they've given 34 goals in 24 games. Now they've scored 2 on them when they played them earlier this year. But I think for Minot, I think that first goal is huge for them. I think that gets them the momentum a little bit. They get, a little more relaxed now that they've scored. And but they do not want to let this high-powered Davies team get a couple goals right away because they don't give up a lot. You're not going to get 4 or 5 goals on them. And you don't want to get into a shootout. I don't think Minot's built to be a team that's going to. I think if it's a close game, Minot's got the talent and some of those key players that they can win a 3-2 game or a 2-1 game. And like you said, I think Conklin is the key for them. He's got to come in and be confident and not have the nerves and make some saves maybe he shouldn't, and then of course make the saves that he should. And but I think if Minot can get out to a lead and stay out of the box, I think they've got a shot. And there's no one giving them any credit. Just on some of the message boards they've been kind of scrounging around, and everyone thinks Davies is gonna win like 6-2 or some of the scores, 5-1 or some of the scores I'm seeing his predictions. And I think Minot's I think Minot has a chance to beat them, and I think this will be a very, very close game if they can keep them off the board right away in the first 5-10 minutes of the game.
Davies didn't pull their goaltender down against Fargo South in the EDC championship game. Do you think Davies did that on purpose? Do you think Davies was all right with a Minot matchup in round number 1? Do you think there was anything to that? I mean, I don't I don't want to stir any feathers the wrong way or anything like that. It's just an observation. Nate Metcalf, great guy, great coach. I mean, think there was anything with that at the East Region tournament where kind of liked his idea of maybe taking on the Magi in the opening round?
I mean, you can Monday man your quarterback. I mean, if I look at the brackets, I mean, if I'm Davies, it's like, okay, I've played Minot, I've beaten Minot. Cheyenne's in my bracket if I win. We've beaten Cheyenne, but Central will beat them too, and look what happened to Central. And then I got Jamestown, West team, and so I've got 2 West teams in Cheyenne if I take second. I'm not saying that they played it that way. Now, South Shanley winning the East, yeah, great, they won the East, but now look what they get. They get Mandan, who probably on paper they should get by. But then you've got a scary legacy team with a experienced coach that is an X factor, and then you've got Red River. And Red River has lost a couple times to these guys now, and I'm sure they want another crack at South Shanley. So But again, I'm sure they're playing to win, and they want that region title. And South Shanley is a good team, and I think we just saw what happened. You can't look by and say I want this game or this game or this opponent because
Bus will leave you at the rink.
Minot probably thought that, and Bottle Rugby got him, and Central thought they were probably going to win, and Cheyenne gets them, and Mandan wasn't given a chance, and they won. So I think you have to just play to win, and you get who you get. You have to beat everyone by the time it's done anyway. So if you get the number 1 seed in the state first game, you got to beat them eventually. So just get the cards dealt where you are. You go for it and just play one day at a time, as the cliche is, and see what happens. But if you try and say, well, let's be this seed or this seed, that can get you in the end too.
Time to move on to the nightcap. And the final 2 of the opening round, Fargo South Bruins take on Leif Mattsson's crew. And the Mandan Braves, the number 9 seed from the West region. They had to play a play-in game and beat Dickinson even to get in. It's Fargo South Shanley that comes in at 18-5 on the year. Is it possible for Mandan to get a win here? And all credit to the Mandan Braves, but man, South Shanley is tough, and this is a mismatch on paper without a doubt here. Some highlights for you. What stands off the paper for you in this one, Bob?
Well, I mean, I guess if I look at the East Region teams, South is probably the one that it seems like they get on a lead, and then Coach French has this kind of defensive trap that they install. And maybe it's against the Eastern teams, but they don't give up a lot once they get a lead. They're very tough to get, to score on. And but no one thought Mandan was going to be here, and look what they've done. They had to get a playing game, like you said. They had to win three at WDA, or two of the 3 games get WDA, and they got by that hurdle. So I'm not going to count anybody out. And what Langang did the last 4 games in the West Region playing game in the tournament, right now he's averaging like 34 saves a game in his last 4 tournament games. And he's a sophomore, and he's playing very composed for a sophomore. And you were there, and it sounds like he made some huge saves in all 3 of those games to keep Mandan in it and then give them the chance to do what they did. But South is playing really well right now. They're on an 8-game win streak. They've given up 10 goals in their last 8 games, and 4 of those were to Red River. So you take those 4 out, they've given up 6 goals in the last 7 games. And Mandan's got to get some offense, and can they do it? And then if they don't, South Shanley gets 1 or 2 on them. I just don't see where they're going to score 3 goals on this team, the way they play their defensive trap system, and it's going to be very difficult. I saw one person post that it was going to be 19-0, and this is the worst number 4 seed to come out of the West, and I discredit that. I think Mandan, like you said, you always said Leif Mattsson's teams play hard. They like to take the body, and they're going to compete, and they've got a goaltender that is under the radar, and I think as long as he doesn't get shell-shocked in the state tournament experience, and if he did what he did in the West Region, Mandan at least will be competitive, and I think they'll hang around. But can they score 2, 3, 4 goals against this South Shanley team is the question.
Langang comes in with a 90% save percentage and a .338 goals against average. He's seen 610 shots on the year. He's only given up 58 goals on those 610. He's the X factor here. Carter Killen, 24 points for him. He leads the charge for the Braves. 17 for Heider. He's a good skater, by the way. Johnner's got 12, 11 on the year for Anderson. Beechel's got 10, 9 and 16 for a record for Mandan. When you look at Fargo South Shanley, the numbers on paper are pretty darn impressive. 45 points for Zach Boren. Scarprud, 24. Well, really, it kind of falls off a table there, but still 24, 22, 22, 21, 20, 20, 17. I mean, you go from Jake Scarprud up to Verwest to Nestler to O'Neill to Lang to Osbach to Scarprud. And they've got depth here, and this is going to be a tough one. They also have some goaltending as well. 20 games played for Olsenowski, 1.59 goals against average and a .935 off of those numbers that you talked about, and his last 6. I mean, obviously they're going to have to be a favorite to be in the big dance and maybe take home a state championship here this year, I'd have to think.
Yeah, and there are 5 losses this year to no slow. I mean, 1-0 to Davies at the start of the year. 3-2 to Red River, 2-1 to North, 3-2 to Davies. So right there, 4 of their losses, 1-goal games to 4 very solid East Region teams. And then they lost to Rochester Mayo out in the championship game over the holidays, and it was an empty netter. So another one. So all their losses have been by one goal. So they just are very, very difficult to play against, especially if they get the lead. And Mandan's going to have to, he's probably going to have 50, 60 shots on net tomorrow, and they're going to have to find some goals and have their goaltender bail them out again like he did in the West region. And if they can keep it close, you never know, because I'm sure Leaf's saying, hey, we have nothing to lose. Enjoy the experience. We still want to try to go out and win the game, but all the pressure is on South Shanley because they're supposed to beat us and probably beat us bad. And if their goaltender plays like he does, and they can pop in a goal and all of a sudden get the crowd going, and the Langang has got more confidence, and who knows? Hot goalie can win a game. Even if the teams are lopsided talent-wise, you can't beat a goaltender if he's on his game. So I'm really interested to see how that sophomore does in the spotlight here at the state tournament when they haven't been here for a couple years.
First trip since 2019. Congratulations to Leif Mattsson's crew on getting here. Best of luck tomorrow as well. On to the last matchup of round one. Legacy Sabres, number 2 seed from the West, takes on the Grand Forks Red River Rough Riders. And why do I say the like that? Well, if you haven't been around North Dakota high school hockey, it's Central and Red River every year that seem to just come in with the dustpan and the little Swiffer sweeper and just take care of business. Will that be the year for them? I'm not sure that this is going to be a year that it's like that, but in the past they have 27 championships. I could be mistaken there, but it's a Red River team that's going to be tough to compete with. But what do you like in this opening round, starting first with Mario Lamoureux's crew? Is there an edge here that they might have in this opening matchup of the state high school hockey tournament? We know that Red River is going to be tough to beat anytime at the state boys hockey tournament.
Well, I think, again, it's you've got a coach that played in Grand Forks, has played in the rivalry with Central Red River, knows what Grand Forks hockey's about, kind of knows, what Grand Forks does. So you're going to have, and he's been there as a player, so you're going to have that coach now coming in, not nervous, with a bunch of kids that this is their first time and the school's first time. He's been here. He's been through it. So you've got that. I think the leader having that confidence and knowing what to expect and knowing how to relate to his team, this is what's going to happen, this is what, that's huge. You don't have a rookie coach coming in that's never been through this. So I think that's the X factor for them. The other thing, though, is they are the most penalized team in penalties and second minutes compared, for all the 8 teams that are here. They've got to stay out of the box. This Red River team, as I put down here, is over their last 6 on the power play, so they're not gelling on the power play right now, but they put up shots, and they're going to put up a lot of shots, and Legacy can't afford to be shorthanded, not against this high-powered offense. So I think that's the biggest thing for me is don't take penalties and weather the storm and try to keep everything to the outside because you're going to see shots, and the Red River's going to put pucks on net. But can they keep them to the outside and try to get a few in here before they get down where they can't maybe come back? But Legacy again is coming in with no pressure. They weren't even probably predicted to make the state tournament, and now they're here. They're going to get to wear the home jersey even, and what an opportunity though. I mean, if you're going to be here, let's play the Grand Forks schools. Let's play the top teams and give it our go. So. I think more pressure's on Red River because everyone's picking him to win. But Mario's gonna get them ready to go, and he's gonna get them focused, and I think he'll get the nerves down and have them prepared what to expect before they hit the ice tomorrow.
Here's some numbers for you. Tyler Miller, the goaltender from Legacy. In my mind, in studying goaltenders across the board my entire life, I got to tell you, this Tyler Miller kid, I'm high on him big time. I think that fundamentally he is the real deal. He's only a sophomore, 91.2% save percentage, .234 goals against average. He'll go against the Red River Rough Rider that is named Noah Berger, and he's been to the big dance before. 90% save percentage for him and a .186 goals against average. There's guys on both of these teams that are going to be tough to compete with. Marcus Butts leads Legacy with 29 points, 21 for Caleb Moore. Josh Wills got 21 for Vasey. Moose has 17. The depth in scoring just isn't there, though, compared to the Red River Rough Riders with Carter Spool, 37 points on the year, 36 for Mikey Coleman. Carson Scarperud's got 26, 23 for Reynolds. Grandstand's got 19, 19 for Vetch, 18 for LeDuc, 18 for Gardner, 15 for Freegee. I mean, when you're above 15, obviously we've said that before, that things are going right for you. You've got a knack to find it, and this Red River team certainly has an advantage in that category. When we come back to our North Dakota State Boys Hockey Tournament preview show here on the PSP Network, presented by Buffalo Wild Wings and Michael Braun, State Farm Insurance Agency, we will make our picks for the round that is the quarterfinals at the State High School Hockey Tournament. We were way off with the WDA Tournament preview show. Maybe we'll pick all East teams and see if we'll be way off again here tomorrow. Bob, of course, is a former alumni of Grand Forks. All the respect to those East Region teams. They just dominate every year. Will it be different this year? We'll make our picks when we come back to the North Dakota Boys Hockey Preview Show.
We raise the bar on bar food with sandwiches, tenders, and there's more where this came from. To the greatest of all times, Buffalo Wild Wings.
For your surprisingly great rates, contact your local State Farm agent today.
If you want the real deal, talk to State Farm agent Michael Lee Braun in Minot today.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
About 10 minutes closer to Buffalo Wild Wings here as we get ready to put a cap on our North Dakota State Boys Hockey Tournament preview show. Bob Gillen from NorthDakotaHighSchoolHockey.com joins us. Big thanks again, Bob. I can't thank you enough for doing what you do with the stats and promoting these young athletes across the board. Fantastic stuff all year long. It's funny in the winter season and throughout winter in North Dakota. I live out in the country, and sometimes winter's a little rough. And this one's been, like a lot of them are. High school hockey, something that I just look forward to each and every night throughout the winter season. Kind of gets you by, and that website for me is just fantastic. Great job with that again. I'm one of your visitors that's there quite often throughout the day and every day, it seems. Great job there. Getting ready for this tournament time now. Let's first look at the girls' tournament quarterfinals tomorrow. Number 1, Davies takes on number 8, Grand Forks. Number 4, West Fargo United takes on number 5, Mandan. Number 2, Bismarck takes on number 7, Jamestown. Number 3, Fargo North South takes on Minot tomorrow. These games can be seen, by the way, on the WDAY website, and that's WDAY Sports Plus. When you go to inforum.com, www.inforum.com/WDAY Sports Plus. Same place that you could find the boys matchups, but the boys matchups in the opening round will also be televised on WDAY Extra if you've got the antenna on your TV. Bob, do you have a pick for girls hockey at the State High School Hockey Tournament? Kind of hard to go against Davies this year, isn't it?
Davies is solid. Although, I think North-South and Bismarck, have played them close. But like you said, they're going to have to play the near perfect game. But Davies' body of work right now, you almost 21-1. You have to go with them until I think their one loss was out of conference. So you have to ride the team until they get beat, I guess. But there are some teams there that can definitely show up and win some games. And they're again, if you get a chance, and that's what I like about the Shields maybe versus the other venue is at period break, get over and watch some girls. There are some very good talent on some of these girls teams, and definitely get over to the Farmers Union tomorrow in between the boys if you're there for the boys game, and check out some of these girls teams. And some of our girls talent in the state is just really, really rising, and it's good to see, and it's fun to see our programs grow and some of these girls that go on and play post high school hockey.
Fantastic stuff. One more question before we make our picks. You also manage the Mesa Arena in Minot, North Dakota. Is that venue doable for a state boys hockey tournament and a girls hockey tournament? Is that venue capable of putting on what is needed in order to make the tournament come to the west side of the state for just an appearance, just to test it out in your mind?
Well, I'll tell you, and some of our, Thor Nelson and Mike Schmidt, know Matt Fetch, the executive director of the High School Activity Association, and they've had those conversations. And here are some of the things I can just tell you about right now why it is the way it is. first of all, the girls before 2000, they used to be separate, and they used to have those tournaments in Dickinson, Jamestown the same weekend as the boys. Two things that are a problem with that. One is you may have families that have kids on both boys and girls teams, and when they're that far away, you can't get to both, especially if they're both they're seniors, which isn't a rarity. But the other thing is that then you have to split up the administrators, and Matt Fetch can't be in Dickinson and Grand Forks on both, on Saturday in both locations, and some of the people that do the awards, and so it's just again imagining those are some of the big things. Now when they're together, the thing about the Mesa Arena or some of the Western venues is we're probably big enough. The girls for sure we are. And I know the girls' coaches in the advisory notes said they'd love to try Minot, and I think it was 11-0 across the board. But because of some of the reasons I just mentioned, it gets voted down. The boys, I think we could handle pretty much all the games except for maybe, depending on the matchups, the 2 semifinals and then the championship. We're a little too small yet for the championship. We're about 1,900 without fire code standing and all that. And but I think, Nick, just looking at how the Western teams come to the West region versus the fans really don't show up at the East region, the 4 West teams, I think, will all come, and then you've got the visiting teams coming, and I think some of the West fans would come even if their team didn't make it. So I think we could handle a majority of the boys' games, but we're just too small for the semis and the championship with the seating capacity that we have. And then the last thing is moving the girls is another issue, because if you go the week of WDA and East Region for boys, that's state wrestling. So all the administrators that go to all the state tournaments are at wrestling. If you move it a week later, now you're in the districts and region basketball, and of course that's another issue with that. So I don't know if it's ever going to change where we're at, but we'd love to give the girls a try at the Mesa, and I know we'd have great crowds, and it's a great venue, and hopefully at some point they'll give it a try. I just don't know if it's ever going to be feasible the way the calendar sets up with all the other activities that high school activities has to cover, and with their administrators and staff and where they have to all be. So we'll see, but that's what I know right now and what we've been told.
Good information. Shields Arena in Fargo is my favorite place for the state tournament in the last, it'll be 30, I'll be 37 coming up, 36 years. I've been coming for 30 years now, and I like the Shields Arena for it. It just seems like a better atmosphere across the board. Obviously, the Ralph is I'm the biggest UND hockey fan that there is, of course, but the Ralph is beautiful. For high school hockey, the Shields Arena really comes alive, and it will come alive starting tomorrow at noon. Time to make our picks, Bob. Jamestown and West Fargo, first one out of the gate. Do you have a pick here? Are you willing to make a pick? Do you want to go on record to make a pick, or do you want to just let me make the pick?
I'll do a pick. I mean, we're doing this for fun, and we're not here to slate any team, but I mean, if everyone gives us a bracket and says here just for fun, let's see how we do. Game one, I think both teams are coming in. Cheyenne's coming in, obviously first time ever beating Central and first time making the state tournament like legacy in their program history. So they're going to have that momentum. They're in town, so they're sleeping in their own beds. But I think Jamestown right now is on a whole different level, and they're playing probably the best hockey they can right now. And I think they aren't just happy winning the WDA and getting here. I think they have bigger sights, and I think they have the team to do it. And Coach Stockert's got them focused, and I think the players are focused, and I think they like their first round matchup. And the biggest thing for me, Nick, is that 8-1 score that Cheyenne beat them by earlier in the year. And I think that has been on their calendar, and I don't think they expected Cheyenne to be here or even to match up with Cheyenne if they did get here. And here they have them. So I think, to me, I'm going to pick the Blue Jays, and those are the reasons why.
Good reasons. I don't have anything other than that. I've got Jamestown potentially going deep in this. I got Jamestown over Cheyenne in round number 1. Davies and Minot. Now, this is a matchup where, on paper, it's a medium to favorable runaway for Fargo Davies. However, for Minot High, they're a team that I've got all the faith in the world in. I do believe that the Magi play well in Fargo for whatever reason that is. That's where they won their last state championship in 2015. They took Davies to overtime earlier this year. I'm going to predict an all-West Region semifinal with Minot taking down Davies. I don't think this is an easy one for either team. Really is a flip of the coin in my mind. Probably anyone from Davies listening is probably saying, well, you're crazy right now. Anyone from Minot saying that's what I'm talking about. But nevertheless, I think this one might be an overtime barn burner, if you will. But I've got the Magi taking down Davies. Where do you fall in line with this pick for game number 2?
Well, I'll keep the Davies people happy, then I'll get my own hometown people upset with me. But I think having played each other, I think that takes the a little bit of the nervousness from Minot. They've played these guys. They know what to expect. Now, if they're playing Red River or South Shanley, haven't played them, don't have the tape of them, they have to drive, stay in, then the excitement, getting them checked into the hotel. They still have that going on tonight, but now they're playing a team they've played this year. They know the speed. They know the goaltending. They know what they have to do. But I just think, to me, Davies got beat in the East Region Championship game after, going 21-2 on the season. That's the one thing they wanted to get was that, and then a state championship. South Shanley prevented. I think they're going to come in now a little more focused. Maybe they kind of thought they were going to, after Red River lost to South Shanley, oh, geez, we get them instead of Red River to, go for the East Region Championship. And then Coach French's team takes them down. So I think they got a little bit of wake-up call there, and now that might have kind of got them refocused, retooled. And, again, they're playing on a rink that they play quite a bit on. And so I think it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be a close game. But I'm going to go with Davies at home. And I just think they've got a little more firepower, and they're going to have a little chip on their shoulder after dropping that game here on Monday.
Special teams and goaltending, to me, are the difference makers across the board, not only in this matchup, but in all these matchups at the state tournament. Maybe not the next one, though. Fargo, South Shanley, and Mandan. This is a number 1 in the East versus 4 in the West matchup. Who do you have here? Is this a runaway train for South in your mind?
South should win, and again, no slight to Mandan. I think the biggest thing here is it going to get away from the Braves? And I think if Langang gets scored on early, it might get a little ugly. I think then Mandan, then the head goes down, and if they get down 3 or 4, oh geez, this team only gives up so many goals, on the season type thing. And Mandan's not a team that's going to score 7-8 goals. They're just not built that way right now. But if Langang plays like he did, and Mandan can get an early goal, and then Langang plays like he did, I think they can stay with them. But again, it's depth, and they've got to find a way to get through that. Just that penetrating that defense is just that system that Coach French plays with those guys is tenacious. So, do they have the ability to get through the defenders and get shots and score? And I don't know if they're built that way, but Langang is going to be the one and only player that is going to keep Mandan in it, give him a shot to win. And if he's playing the way he's playing and Mandan can rally and find some offense, who knows? But I'm going South Shanley, and I'm not going to really go with the score because I don't think it's going to be as bad as people are predicting. And Mandan's here for a reason, and they've earned their way here, and they're playing good, and they're confident, and I think they're going to try to do more than just get here and be happy that they're here. I think Langang is ready to showcase himself now to the high-powered teams out east, and hopefully they'll make it a game, and maybe they'll knock them off. Who knows? And we'll keep the Cinderella story going.
I've got South Shanley in this one. I mirror everything you say here. Congratulations to both teams, all the teams making it here. I just think South just has too much firepower with what they bring to the table, and a team that comes in on an 18-5 mark against some pretty tough competition out east, taking on a 9-16 team from the West. I mean, it's no secret that those conferences just are a little bit different. Final one of the day and of the opening round. Red River, Bismarck Legacy. This could be a pretty good matchup here in the opening round. To me, Red River's got more firepower. Legacy's got goaltending. Both teams are coached well. Both teams are on the road in this situation. Do you have a favorite here in this one, Bob?
I think this one might be a little more lopsided than maybe people are thinking. And Mario can't play the game for the kids. And as much as I respect and think what this team has done to get where they are, Red River is a whole different animal than what they've faced. And Legacy played some Eastern teams earlier this year, and I think North beat them 7-1, and West Fargo beat them like 6-2 or something. So they haven't fared too well early on the season. Now again, that was early, but Red River, even though they might not score some games, they're still putting up 30-40 shots a game. And is Legacy going to have the depth to keep up with that second, third line who can also score for the Riders? And but you said Tyler Miller, again, another freshman goalie that's not afraid to play the game. And is the spotlight going to be too big now here? That's a lot to ask a freshman goaltender. But you know what? He's done it all year, and look where it's gotten him. Number 3 in the regular season and number 2 in the region tournament. So, but I'm going Red River, and we'll see what Legacy can do to counter that high-powered offense and the shots that they'll probably see here tomorrow night.
Bob and I both have Red River. Bob and I both have Fargo South Shanley. Bob and I both have Jamestown. Bob has Davies. I have Minot for an all West Region semifinal number 1. South Shanley versus Red River in semifinal number 2. Bob, final thing, if you had to pick a state champion at this point right now at 10:07 p.m. on the night before it all begins, do you have a team that you think is going to be in the big dance and holding the hardware on Saturday night at the Shields Arena? What would your pick be?
Well, I picked Davies at the start of the year. I'm going to continue to pick Davies. I mean, they're 21-3, and like I said, their 3 losses are Red River, 1-goal loss to Moorhead, and then the one here just earlier this week to South Shanley. And but they're playing at home, and I think after getting beat by South Shanley, like I said earlier, I think they're going to be a little more refocused and a little more determined. And I think the top bracket might be a little more favorable than the bottom half of the bracket with the teams that are in them. But Jamestown could be, like you said, I like your Jamestown pick. And if Jamestown and Davies are in the semifinals, I don't think Jamestown's going to be scared. And that could be an interesting matchup if that's how it is. But I'm going to go Davies because I went start of the year. They're still here. 21-3 is a very good mark to have after 24 games. And Wemkin and Net, they're playing at home, playing in a rink they're familiar with. I'll stay with the Eagles.
My heart says Jamestown and Matt Stockert's crew. My mind says Red River. And why I pick Red River is that the pedigree that they bring to the table. And throughout all the years, and of course there's youth programs from all these different towns that have had success across the board. Something special about Red River, something special about playing in an arena that has a banner that hangs in the rafters that, says that you should be the king of the hill each and every year. And it just seems like at tournament time they find a way. Will that be this year? I don't know. Davies is pretty doggone good. Jamestown's good. South is good. Minot's good. There's teams here. Legacy's good. There's teams here that are good. If I had to bet money on it, I'm going to say that it's Red River that takes home the state title for 2022. Hope we're wrong, possibly, if you're not a Red River fan, and if you're a fan of the Magi from Minot High like I am, and my broadcast partner, Matt Morelli, who will join us on the call tomorrow at the Shields Arena. We hope we are wrong, but at the end of the day, we're just hoping for good hockey. And at the end of the whole conversation, this is all for fun, of course, but you look at what we get to do here this weekend, and we're very blessed that we live in a state that has such high hockey talent across the board. And the parity in the league this year has been the way it's been. It's been one heck of a season. It's going to be one heck of a tournament. I can't even wait. Just so you know, we'll have coverage of Minot High boys across the board on the PSP network for every game that they play in. Matt Morelli and I will have the call. We're going to bring in Dave Wilson, former Minot High goaltending standout from the early 2000s. Still holds the all-time save percentage record with a 93% of the 2001 season to call the state semifinals with me and the state championship game. That is, of course, unless Minot High is in the state semis, then Dave Wilson will get one game. Matt Morelli will get the Minot High game. And nevertheless, across the board, we'll have good hockey for you on the PSP network. One more time where you can watch this. www.inforum.com/WDA Sports, WDAY Sports Plus, WDAY Sports Plus a web subscription that is required. You got to pay to watch for the boys and the girls, or you can watch on the antenna on your TV on WDA Extras channel for the boys' quarterfinal matchups. Bob, closing thoughts on our tournament preview show.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me again. You do a great job, and it's an honor to get to do these preseason and then pre-tournament shows with you and talk hockey, and it just makes me more excited. And I guess a small disclaimer, just after 22 years of doing this will be the first state, even the 2 years I lived in Colorado, this will be the first state tournament I will not be here start to finish, unfortunately. So you won't be getting the live updates on Friday and Saturday. Unfortunately, I have to run to Rapid City to my other USA hockey role. I have to go run a girls' district playoff for the national championships on Friday through Sunday in Rapid City. So I'll get in the car 7 a.m. Friday, and I'll stop at a truck stop somewhere and have lunch and get on their internet and update some scores. But I won't be doing live on Friday and Saturday, unfortunately. But rinkwriter.com will have all the game sheets that you can get all the stats. And then I will be doing stats and getting the stuff updated before each of the next days. But Unfortunately, this year I'll just be at the state for tomorrow, and then I'll have to just update as I go throughout the weekend, and I'll have to miss some of these great matchups on Friday and Saturday for both the boys and girls, but I can't be in two places at once, so unfortunately this year I'll have to finally miss a couple days of a state tournament. But again, PSP will have the games, and you can listen to them, and you can watch them on the feed that Nick said. And like I said, it's good luck to all the teams, and just getting here again, congratulations to all 16 boys and girls, the 8 boys, 8 girls, and just to get here is a phenomenal effort. And only one team can be a champion, but again, hold your head high as you walk out of the rink, and you got here and you're playing high school athletics, and you'll remember this the rest of your life, even if you don't win the state championship. So compete hard, have fun, and again, we'll see what happens on Saturday.
Well said, Bob. We appreciate everything that you do at NorthDakotaHighSchoolHockey.com. Thanks for joining us here. Buffalo Wild Wings is calling our name. If you're up for that, I'm ready if you are. Let's head there now. That's going to do it for our North Dakota State Boys High School Hockey Tournament Preview Show on the PSP Network, brought to you by Michael Braun, State Farm Insurance Agency, and Buffalo Wild Wings. Coverage starts tomorrow on the PSP Network. Let's call it 1:45 with Matt Morelli and I bringing you the Shields pregame. Until then, have a good night, and God bless.
We raise the bar on bar food with sandwiches, tenders, and there's more where this came from. To the greatest of all times, Buffalo Wild Wings.